Please don't take my brother." The 7-year-old girl begged. The cop froze, then looked inside the crib. Rain hammered down on the cracked front porch, the night swallowing every sound except the desperate cries of a little girl. "Please, don't take him. He's all I've got," whispered Emma, clutching her baby brother tight against her thin jacket, her small arms trembling with cold and fear. Detective James Parker stepped onto the porch, his flashlight slicing through the darkness. The faint light revealed Emma's tear-streaked face, her wide eyes locked onto his with a raw, silent plea that stopped him cold. Inside the dim, cluttered living room, the faintest sound of a baby's whimper echoed from the crib. The weight of the moment pressed on James like a stone in his chest. This wasn't just another call. Across the peeling wallpaper and scattered toys lay a fragile world on the brink of shattering. Olivia, Emma's mother, lay slumped against the kitchen wall, her breath shallow, a shattered woman caught in the storm of her own making. James reached out slowly, his voice gentle but firm. "Emma, it's going to be okay. Just tell me what happened." The little girl's voice broke as she whispered, "Mommy said she can't take care of us anymore. She said, she's leaving." James swallowed hard, eyes flicking to the crib again. Inside lay the smallest child, innocent and unaware, wrapped in a faded blue blanket stained with tears and something darker. The night was far from over. James stood frozen for a heartbeat, studying Emma's trembling hands clutching the baby. She wasn't just scared, she was carrying a burden far heavier than her 7 years should ever know. Her small body shook, not from the cold alone, but from the weight of helplessness pressing deep inside. Not a single word came from her now, just desperate, pleading eyes locked on James like a silent scream. Behind Emma, Olivia remained slumped, her face pale and drawn. She didn't cry or beg. Instead, she sat perfectly still, her silence louder than any sob, like a storm contained in fragile glass ready to shatter. James noticed the way Olivia's fingers twitched, as if fighting some invisible battle. The worn tattoo on her wrist peeked from beneath a faded sweater, a reminder of a past she wanted no one to know. Emma shifted her gaze from James to her mother and back again. Her silence was broken only by the soft whimper of the baby, the fragile thread holding the family together. James's eyes softened as he crouched to Emma's level, but the silence between them was thick, the kind that speaks louder than words, full of fear, confusion, and the painful hope that someone would hear their story. No heroic speeches. No forced reassurance. Just the raw moment, a girl on the edge of losing everything, a mother too broken to fight, and a cop who suddenly understood this wasn't about law and order, it was about saving what was left of a family falling apart. Just as James's eyes locked again on the fragile baby in the crib, the front door creaked open behind him. A figure appeared in the doorway, soaked from the rain, face etched with worry but eyes burning with determination. It was Lucas Bennett, a local cafe owner known for his quiet kindness, a man who had watched Emma and Olivia struggle from a distance but never dared to intervene. Tonight, he had finally stepped forward. Lucas's jaw tightened as he took in the scene, Emma clinging to her brother, Olivia slumped in defeat, and Detective James standing frozen in that thick silence. Without a word, Lucas moved closer, his presence filling the room with a strange calm. Emma's grip on the baby tightened as she looked up at Lucas, a flicker of hope piercing through her fear. No longer alone. James glanced at Lucas, surprise and relief mingling in his eyes. This man wasn't just a bystander. He was about to change everything. Without asking for permission, Lucas gently knelt beside Emma and whispered, "I'm here now. I won't let anything happen to you or your brother." Emma's tears spilled freely, her small body finally allowing the weight of the night to break through. Olivia's eyes met Lucas's for a brief moment, a silent plea passing between them, desperate, fragile, and full of questions. James felt a shift in the air. The night storm was far from over, but suddenly, something new had entered the battle, a protector who refused to turn away. Lucas reached into his soaked coat and pulled out a thick envelope, inside, a promise of shelter, warmth, and a second chance. "No one should face this alone," Lucas said quietly, his voice steady, "let me help." The crib's fragile occupant let out a soft coo, as if sensing the flicker of hope now igniting in the room. James nodded slowly. Tonight, the lines between law, mercy, and humanity blurred. Lucas gently lifted the baby from Emma's trembling arms, cradling him as if he were the most precious thing in the world. His movements were slow, deliberate, careful not to startle the fragile life wrapped in the worn blue blanket. Emma watched, wide-eyed, unsure if she could trust this stranger, but something in Lucas's calm steadiness softened the tight grip of fear around her heart. Olivia stirred slightly, her eyes heavy but fixed on Lucas. No words came, but in the silence, a fragile connection began to form. A silent agreement that this man might be the lifeline they desperately needed. James stepped back, letting Lucas take the lead. He noticed the tension in Emma's small shoulders ease just a fraction as Lucas smiled softly, whispering, "You're safe now. We'll take care of you." The room seemed to breathe differently. The storm outside still raged, but inside, for the first time in hours, there was a flicker of warmth. Lucas pulled a thick wool blanket from his coat and carefully wrapped it around the baby, then turned to Emma. "Do you want to come with me? I have a warm place, food, and people who care." Emma's gaze darted to Olivia, who nodded faintly, her lips pressed tight in silent approval. No promises were made, no grand speeches offered. Just quiet assurance in Lucas's eyes, a steady presence in a world that had suddenly turned cold and cruel. James watched as Emma's tiny hand finally reached out and grasped Lucas's finger. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. The soft hum of the early morning filled the room as Lucas sat beside Olivia, his eyes never leaving hers. The silence stretched long enough that it felt like a question hanging between them, the weight of unspoken truths pressing down. Finally, Olivia's lip trembled. Her voice cracked like fragile glass as she whispered, "It started when Daniel left." Emma, now curled beside Lucas on a threadbare couch, listened closely, clutching her baby brother tighter, sensing the storm that had swallowed their mother whole. Olivia's hands shook as she traced invisible patterns on the worn fabric of her sweater. He promised things would get better, a new job, a fresh start. But he never came back. The bills piled up, and the threats started soon after. Her eyes flickered to Emma and then to the sleeping baby. "I did everything I could. Worked 2 jobs, begged for help. But the landlord, he didn't care. The nights got colder. The phone calls, they weren't from friends." Lucas's jaw tightened. The quiet rage simmered beneath his calm exterior. "Why didn't you call someone? Family, friends?" Olivia's breath hitched, the silence answering for her. "Because I was ashamed. Because I didn't want to be that mother, the one who couldn't protect her kids." Tears spilled freely now. Emma's small voice broke through, "Mommy, it's not your fault. We love you." Lucas reached over, gently wiping a tear from Olivia's cheek. "You're not alone anymore. We'll figure this out. Together." The raw pain in Olivia's eyes softened, not healed, but fragile hope beginning to take root. Days passed like a blur, but the weight of the past didn't loosen its grip. Olivia sat stiffly across from Lucas, eyes sharp, jaw clenched. She wasn't ready to surrender, not yet. Then, just as the fragile peace seemed to settle, a shadow appeared at the door. Daniel. His presence filled the room like a storm rolling in, cold and uninvited. Lucas's gaze hardened, but he didn't move first. Olivia's hand tightened around Emma's, her knuckles white. The years of fear, the nights spent waiting, all boiled to the surface in one silent moment. Daniel's voice was low, smooth, but beneath it trembled the weight of guilt and anger. "I came back for the kids. I want to make things right." Olivia's laugh was bitter, a sound shattered by years of broken promises. "Make things right? After everything you left us to rot? After the threats, the silence?" Emma stood protectively in front of the baby, her small frame suddenly fierce. "You're not coming near him." Lucas stepped forward then, his voice calm but firm. "Daniel, if you want to be part of their lives, it's not going to be on your terms. You need to prove you're different. Not just say it." Daniel's eyes flicked to Lucas, a challenge and a plea all at once. "I'm here now. I'll do whatever it takes." Olivia met his gaze with a newfound strength that surprised even herself. "Then start by showing us. Actions, not words. Because if you hurt them again, I won't hesitate." The room pulsed with tension, but beneath it all, a fragile hope lingered, the hope that this confrontation might finally break the cycle of pain. Lucas looked at Olivia and Emma, their silent nods said it all. They were ready to face the past, but this time, with new strength and fierce determination to protect what was theirs. The morning sun filtered gently through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the small living room where Emma, Olivia, and Lucas sat together. The air was heavy but different, less burdened by fear, more charged with quiet determination. Olivia reached into a worn wooden box beside her and pulled out a tattered scrapbook, pages filled with faded photos, scribbled notes, and tiny handprints. Each one a fragile thread connecting the past to this new chapter. "Here," she said softly, handing the book to Emma, who opened it with wide, curious eyes. "This is where we start again." Lucas watched as Emma traced her fingers over the pictures, moments of laughter, birthday parties long ago, and the simple joy of family. He could see the walls around Olivia's heart beginning to crack, just enough to let hope seep in. "We can make new memories," Lucas said quietly. "Safe ones." Emma smiled, the first genuine one in days, and held up a small painted rock she'd found on their walk the day before, a symbol of strength, she said. Olivia nodded, tears spilling but this time mixed with relief. "It's not about forgetting. It's about taking back what was lost, our peace, our love." Lucas reached over and closed the scrapbook gently, sealing the past but holding it tenderly, like a chapter in a book that had shaped them but would no longer define them. Outside, the world continued its rush, but inside, a family reclaimed their power, fragile, hopeful, and fiercely alive. And as the first genuine laughter rang out from the room, the weight of that long, dark night began to lift, replaced by a quiet promise that no matter what came next, they would face it together. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to smash that thumbs up and hit subscribe for more unforgettable, emotional, and viral true stories. We want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell us, where in the world are you watching from?